You don't have to do a verbal apology. First, I want to mention briefly, if your kid is verbal, they might have an aversion to just the phrase, I'm sorry. I know my kid does. She cannot say, I'm sorry. I'm not sure if it's a pride thing or an aversion thing. I think it's more of a PDA, like pathological demand avoidance type of thing, which is also common with autism. And so she really doesn't want to say the word, I'm sorry. So we just switched it up to say, I apologize. And she's cool with that. So she'll say, I apologize, but she will not say, I'm sorry. So play with the words. I mean, if snickerdoodle means I'm sorry to you guys, use snickerdoodle. As long as everyone is in agreement of what that word means, it doesn't matter. It's the intent that matters. I actually found some pretty cool things. This I'll show you guys. And for you guys listening on the audio podcast, I've got these little stuffed animals here, and they're basically a blue stuffed animal. There's going to be some Velcro pulling, so I'm sorry about the sound. Um, but this guy is, he's translucent.
Translucent.
Ooh. He's blue, and he says, oops. There we go. You can kind of see it on the camera. And then there's a little purple kind of monster, stuffed animal, and his name is Ouch. And so these are two little stuffed animals that you could get on Amazon. I'll post the link in the description of this episode so you guys can find it on YouTube. And so they're called Ouch and Oops. And they're two little stuffed animals. I'm trying to get them on the camera, but they're kind of like translucent. And so what it is what you're supposed to do is the oops and ouch. Whenever your kid does something wrong and they need to apologize, and let's say they're averse to apologizing, you just take the little guy who is oops, and then you take the little guy who is ouch, and you give ouch to the person who needs the apology. So this is the person who's been hurt, whose feelings has been hurt. And this is the little purple sad monster named Ouch. And then you give the blue monster, whose name is Oops, and he's the one that for some reason the camera really wants to make a ghost. And so he's Oops, and he's the apology monster. And when you take these, you give the apology monster, that one goes from the person who basically committed the sin, the person who hurt the other person. They have to give the oops one to the person holding the ouch. If the ouch person, the person whose feelings were hurt, if they are nonverbal or they have a hard time expressing their feelings of when they're hurt, like our littlest, she gets hurt all the time and she's minimally verbal sometimes, so she cannot express when she's hurt. So we give her the ouch monster, and it's her job to give ouch to her sister when she feels that her sister has hurt her feelings or has done something mean. So she gives the ouch to her sister, and then her sister, in response, in order to apologize, since she is not willing to apologize verbally or cannot if she's nonverbal, she gives her back the oops.
Sure. So we've introduced these to our kids just to show, okay, this is how we can model them and not necessarily have to use the words, I'm sorry, I apologize. So our youngest is able to kind of hold the little one and give it to her sister. And so since they're both young in age, 3 and 4, they love stuffed animals. So it is helpful that they both don't see these stuffed animals as like, oh, I did something wrong, or oh, this is bad. They just see them as stuffed animals. So the nice thing is they're already kind of put their guard down a little bit. So they're able to use these and kind of exchange them. And it's kind of more of a like they're playing with their little toys, and they're almost reenacting the scene of, oh, this one got hurt. This one is saying, I'm sorry. So they kind of reenact with the dolls the apology. And it seems to work out really well because it kind of takes off the feelings or the pressure of having to say I'm sorry, and it kind of pushes it to the dolls. So our oldest, who frequently kind of hurts her little sister, she doesn't feel that she necessarily has that much pressure to say I'm sorry because it's the little doll that she's playing with. So she has no problem to exchange the feelings to say I'm sorry. And I mean, so far we've only had it for probably like a week or so, and we've already had, I think, some pretty good interactions where there's not a meltdown when our oldest has to say she's sorry, and our youngest as well likes to kind of play with the little dolls when she gets hurt. We do try to only use them when they are absolutely necessary. So we don't let our kids play with them just as they would with any dolls. They kind of have to be in that situation where there has been a pain that's happened to one of them in order to kind of use the dolls. So kind of similar to like when we had mentioned our potty training technique where we had like the special toy that they would only have in the bathroom. This is very similar. We only let them use the oops and I'm sorry doll whenever they need to kind of reenact one of these situations. So, so far we've had good success. I'm hoping that, I mean, if you listeners have young kids, hopefully this might be an option for you just to kind of at least start the conversation with the little ones so they kind of get the idea of, okay, this is how it should take place. And I can kind of play with this doll to reenact what I should be saying. And then hopefully from there, as they get a little bit older, they can kind of grow out of that phase if they're able to.